to thank you for the great response to our Volume 1 introduction video. I thought we might follow up in the tradition of how we got started. It goes back to, I guess, the 70s, maybe 80s. My brothers had always loved Italian switchblades, as well as the little brother. You always want what your big brother thinks is cool. If I remember right, after Vietnam War, when my uncle came back, he gave a switchblade to my oldest brother, God rest his soul. At that time, I always thought it was an Italian switchblade. It wasn't until a few years ago that I realized it was actually a Rizzi. And for you guys that ask what a Rizzi is, we'll get into that in another video when we explore the world of Rizzis. At 10 or 12 years old, when he finally finished his second tour of Nam, and he was home for good, bringing my brother that switchblade was an awe-inspiring, and it flipped a switch in me. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. In the 80s, my middle brother, he ordered a switchblade direct from Italy, and they had a situation where if you ordered it, it goes to the northern borders. If it gets seized by customs, you send them a copy of the customs seizure paperwork, and then they send you another. If the second one were to get seized, you were just out your money. Well, long story short, he got his first one, and it was beautiful. Now we're going to fast forward 30 years. Trudy and I were walking through a flea market, and I'd already had a small assortment of Krieger stilettos and some other Japanese, Chinese stilettos. The flea market was having this huge out-of-town vendor sale or something. Anyway, the parking lot was loaded with vendors, and this is a big flea market mall. We were walking through inside doing our flea market stuff, didn't really see anything. They had a knife vendor inside that wasn't aware of switchblade laws, and when I approached, asked if they had any switchblades, he looked at me like I was a criminal. He said, no, they don't get into the gray area, yada, yada, yada. So we moved on, and as we were leaving, there was an out-of-town vendor with a couple of 9-inch Pearl-X. Well, one was a Pearl-X, one was, looked like it may have been a one. I have a rule on collecting. Depending on what it is you're collecting, we set a price limit. Let's say it's porcelain doll. Our price limit's $5. That means any porcelain doll you see, no matter the shape, condition, it's $5. Doesn't really matter. We'll buy it. Because Trudy collects porcelain dolls. Now she's collecting wooden crafts, and we've set a $10 for mid-size, $15 for the little bit bigger size. And we find that that's what we pay or we walk. If it's more than that, unless it's something extremely special, well, my rule for switchblades was $20, unless it's something extremely special. Everybody was always asking between 50 and 55 bucks, and even higher, I guess. So if you could buy one for 20, I would, provided I had the money. And they had 5 of them. I'd have bought all 5 of them at 20 bucks a piece. Across the lot, this vendor had the white and the black Italian stiletto switchblades. And of course, like everybody else, he wanted 55, and neither was in very good shape. They were both older, which is cool, but I still wasn't sure whether they were Edgeco or if maybe they were Japanese, Chinese, or Italian. I had my $20 rule. Unfortunately, I only had 25 in my pocket, so I hit the guy up, hey, I'll take them both for 25. I mean, really, what's the worst he could do? Tell us to get out? Well, he said, I could have the one with the crack in it, the white one for 25, but would have to get 50 out of the other. Well, I'm looking at both of them. They're both lower end, older knives. I countered with $20 for the black one, and I believe it was real horn. He declined, we left. And I'm kind of saying, well, you know, I probably should have bought the white one, whatever. And as we drove away from the place, Trudy decided she was tired of my bitching, so she turned around and went back to at least buy one of them. We got back, and he had already sold the black. It had only been like 10 or 15 minutes. So when all he had left was the white one, and it was cracked, and it was Sunday, so I knew they were going to be packing up and leaving back to whatever state they come from. I walked around his table 4 or 5 times, and I tell him I kind of have a rule. It's not a higher end knife. It's not a higher end switchblade. $20 is the most I can give, which is, in reality, I didn't have any Italian switchblades, so I had a couple of stilettos that I've probably given $20 for through the mail 20 years ago. He said, I tell you what, come back in 30 to 45 minutes. We're getting ready to pack up and leave. If nobody buys it, I'll let you have it for 20. So we looked around for a few minutes, and make a long story short, I wasn't going to wait that long. I walked back up, and he let me have it for $20. It's really in horrible shape. Steel liner, swivel bolster, plastic cracked Pearl X. But that's not the important part. For what the important part is that that's the beginning of our Italian style saga of switchblades. It really all started in that moment, not the 70s or the 80s, but that's how I justified in the moment, is going back into history, looking at the way my brother felt, the look in his eyes, the look in my middle brother's eyes when he got his from Italy, and the way I felt leaving with my $20 switchblade. A few weeks later, we decided to go to a gun show, and I'm looking for stuff for my 1911. I'm also looking for a 32 special or 30-30 lever action. Preferred a 1943 or 44 Winchester, 1894 if I could find one. And the gun show, there were a bunch of switchblades. $300 to $600 range. That wasn't a problem if you weren't a high-end switchblade. One vendor had an 11-inch Latama that looked like it had been run through a meat grinder. He only had $1,500 on it. He had several other nice, overpriced, subjective name brands. He also had a red Pearl X for $85. Really, I didn't find anything related to my 1911 that I wanted. Was looking for a drum magazine, which would have been cool, but their selection of Winchester model 1894 parts, there wasn't anything there. So, as we're walking out, I see a plunge dagger that's $15. Steal of the deal. Love it. I still have it to this day. My son-in-law, behind my back, went and bought it for me, but the guy still had the red stiletto switchblade. So I said, man, I got $20 rule. If you'll take $20 for it, I'll take it right now. And he said, deal. This will be the first sale I'd make today. So I took it. So 3 weeks in, I'm 2 switchblades in. A collection was born. Here's where it gets really, turns itself on its head, flips me upside down, and throws me out the window. I'm on social media on a regular basis. I'm a Google user. I'm an eBay shopper. I'm an Instagram, Tweetbook, Flickr, face searching like crazy. But I'm not rich. So I'm not looking to start an Insta collection or build an Insta collection. I figured 2 or 3 weeks, maybe next year, I'll get a couple more. I just happened to run across a forum or group, as they're called, of old switchblades, and I asked all of the simple questions everyone else asks when they first start losing their minds. A lot of you that have been doing this a long time really get tired of repeating yourself. We're going to address the newbie question here in this video, and hopefully next time someone on Twitter book says, what's a swing guard, what's a dagger blade, we can just refer them to this video. What's the difference between horn and stag? What's, do you store them open or closed? What kind of pins? What? Just refer them here to this video. That's not what turned my world upside down. That's not what turned me completely around. American Switchblade guy named Mark Erickson had written a book called American Switchblades Identification and Value Guide. He also had a social media group called Old Switchblades, or something like that anyway. I became a member and fell in love with a candy striped toothpick. Not being able to afford one, not willing to shell out the kind of money it would take to buy one at the next flea market or rummage sale, I did buy a box of knives, and there was a 7 or 8 decent older knives in the box. There was a toothpick, Candy Stripe, but it was a non-auto. That was the Candy Stripe. I thought that was the neatest thing. I had taken a picture and asked all the newbie questions on social media, and he was very understanding, extremely nice guy, answered some of the questions that he could. And as I scrolled through and saw some of the American Switchblades, which I didn't even know existed, I had to start asking, So I PM'd, and within a week or so, he made it affordable for me to own my first American Candy Stripe toothpick switchblade. I learned quite a bit from him on basically just the collecting of American switchblades. That's where I started my fondness for American switchblades. They seem more utilitarian. There were larger knives for hunting, rural uses. There were smaller versions for gentlemen and ladies alike. There were letter openers and such, double-bladed vest pockets so you could stir your pipe or cut your cigar. My fascination with the Americans from 1918s to 1940s, I started to study on the years in the 1950s when Dooley and his clan and Modern Woman magazine and ridiculous article about the toy that kills and what had done to the American switchblade. Switchblades in America were only a small portion of the knives. They're being produced by the bigger names, Trade, Federal, Colonial, who still, to my understanding, had contracts with the military for their military knives, which we will have a video on the 3 different manufacturers of the military used as the paratrooper, and we should delve into the fixed blades and trench arc knives, as well as they go way back and deserve a video all their own. It reminds me in a movie, might have been some bogus movie, might have been some very deep movie, I don't really remember, but I remember the line, "You cannot serve 2 masters." Whether it was something a no-name actor said, or if it was something deep in a spy thriller, I don't really remember, but it's always set in. It has resonated with me and has been reality my entire life. It's not that way with collecting. In collecting, you can call me be a eclectic collector. I grew up with no appreciation for antiques. There was no antique in our life. I saw my first Victrola that played at around age 25. Guy had a plethora of albums with it, just was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. He ended up giving it to me, so I started incorporating antiques into my world. And then as my fetish grew, my American switchblades obviously have quadrupled. I had to complete my board of cracked ice and candy stripes because that's the way they were or should be. I learned that not only do they make the jack style and make a fishtail, I had been collecting about, 10 weeks or so, and I had 1 candy stripe, 2 Italians, and 3 or 4 generic stilettos. Walk into my local pawn shop. The new owner is a guy I trained into a business manager in the 90s. He had a few switchblades, but he was like 100, 125, whatever, and I looked down, saw one that had horn finish, brass liners. I'd give it a shot, offered him $20, and he says, "Hey, do you like really old switchblades?" I was, "Well, yeah. What else do you have?" He said, "I've got some at home in the safe. If you want to come back by next weekend, I'll bring them in to work and we'll see what happens." Well, that was a 2 or 3 week ordeal because it seems like I went back every weekend and he had forgotten them. Then when finally he does bring them in, there is a Sure Snap, a white bolsterless, mint condition. Didn't have the box, but it had looked untouched in all these years, 60, 70 years, whatever. It looked like I just stepped into a time machine. It was so perfect, it was so nice. He also had a Craftsman and an Ariel and a 17-inch D-stamp stag. I tried a bundle deal, but that was so far out of what I've been collecting. and learning for a few weeks, I couldn't afford the bundle. I made an offer for the Sure Snap and the 7-inch because we knew that they weren't worth as much as the others. He reluctantly accepted my offer and threw out a ridiculous price for the others. I phoned a rather new friend. He said he would take the Craftsman in the area. So my Trudy, she turned around and we bought them for him. At the time, I hadn't seen any bolsterless Sure Snaps, but I instantly knew this is what I liked. The Sure Snap, the bolsterless, just blew my mind. You know, I had seen several on Fleabay of the crossbar, the Sure Snaps, and the bolstered Sure Snaps, the Edge Masters, but I had never seen a bolsterless. So now I am not only serving 2 masters, I'm serving 3 masters. I am on the hunt for the toothpick, the bolsterless, and the Italians. You see where I'm going with this. It's never ending. In the 2 years I've been doing this, I've read everything I know to read for as much as I possibly can, and there are literally thousands of possibilities for collectors. You've got Prestos, press buttons, all of the things in the book that are readily available. Within that time, I ran into a guy who can make you whatever you want, a certain style to have the right feel, have it made for you. He's a master, so without getting too far off topic today, I just really wanted to talk about the serving 2 masters. I don't recommend serving any more than 2, or you end up like me, completely obsessed. Remember, I use Mark's rules when collecting. Collect what you can afford, start with a filler. Add nicer when you can. For the rookie collector, stay with the plentiful, less rarities. I had read at one time there was a wine counterfeiter who only counterfeited the extremely rare wines due to less first-hand knowledge, poor photographs back when to identify them by. Same with rare art, it's the same. While the dollar amounts for rare art and the ability of the mass spectrometer to verify the legitimacy of a pigment used in the canvas materials along with CTC scanning, the $300 or $400 counterfeit knife doesn't warrant that type of scrutiny. Number 1 rule of thumb, you're not generally going to get a $300+ knife new for 60 bucks. There is and are expectations, or I say expectations, exceptions, with broken springs or issue knives that may lead one to sell a knife they know nothing about for cheap. Please don't take advantage of someone that does this. If it's a $400+ knife and it has a weak spring lock or the lock's broken, the seller obviously doesn't know what he has and offers it for sale for 20 bucks, let him know the repair could be as low as $40 or as much as $100, whatever. I know I bought out a guy who I only had 80 bucks on me left. My pockets, that's it, that's all I had. He approached me with a Latama with a weak button spring, said he would take 20 bucks for it because it wouldn't stay closed. Well, I had 80 bucks in my pocket. I left with no money in my pocket. So, what are we going to collect? Americans, Italians, or Frenchies, or customs? Really doesn't matter what you decide to collect. You really want as much information as you could possibly get. These 3 books I have in front of me are the must-reads. If you're going to be doing Switchblades at bare minimum, if you're going to do Italians, this Switchblades of Italy. This would be the bare minimum. If you're going to really get into collecting the higher line stuff, I recommend the Latama Legend for more than one reason. I recommend it because it's so well written, has pictures of really fantastic knives in it. But let's not leave out Mark's Antique American Switchblades. Its identification and value guide. There is a section on grading knives in here that is invaluable. Now, a lot of people look at the prices and say there's no way, wah, wah, wah. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is how to grade the knife. If you started there, you'll find most of the knives, once you grade them, will come into pretty close to where you could actually buy them for. Guys, if you like this, please click subscribe and like. Leave me comments in the bottom. Let me know what you want to see. These first two videos have run really long and are a lot more than the pop-up videos you're going to see. We just wanted to get our name out there and let you know that knife life is our life. Whether you check us out on social media at Automatic Outlaws, or you check us out on our website, freakknives.com, bladegrills.com, automaticoutlaws.com, or you check us out on Instagram at ramtough_63. Peace out. Stay sharp.